From time and time again, I have always wondered, why do we appreciate people when they're dead than those who are alive today? Even if it's people that we dislike, we start saying good things about them. Even if it's people we don't know, we say good things about them, and we tend to say words of kindness to those who are deceased. But when someone is alive, you can take them for granted, you insult them, you can gossip behind their back. It's easy to take people are taken for granted so easily these days. But the reason why people appreciate others after they pass on is because of the fact that we are afraid of facing death and oblivion. That's my opinion. My belief is that we are afraid of the thought of death. The thought of death scares us, does something to our minds, and it also allows us to fear the possibility of facing oblivion and darkness, which is a scary and daunting thought to most people. And I think this is why when people die and they pass away, we say good things about them more so than those who are alive and well today. And people pay a tribute to celebrities whether they're alive or they're dead. But most people show that kind of respect. We tend to appreciate others when they leave or they relocate somewhere and give you their farewell, or when they die and you show up at their cemetery, at their funeral, which to me is very, very strange. So this is why I believe that we appreciate others more when they're dead versus when they're alive. And it's easy to take people for granted nowadays, and this is why in my previous video I mentioned people will appreciate you more and they will like you more when they don't know you that well. When you're mysterious and you're an enigma, people get excited and they appreciate you more. They kind of like you more. But when they get to know you, they're just gonna be like, oh, I've heard it all. And they're pretty much like an open book. They're pretty much like a book that they've read 300 times. They don't care anymore. But you see, I think the goal from here on in is that if you want to be better with people, you should appreciate them more when they're alive versus when they're dead. Because when they're dead, you'll never get to see them or appreciate them ever again. You can pay tribute to them, but appreciating people who have died, even if they're near and dear to you, it's not the same thing as appreciating those who are alive. It's not the same thing at all. But it shouldn't have to get to that point. And I think this is what makes us human beings hypocrites. And this is why we contradict ourselves. We appreciate each other more when we're dead. So even if you dislike the person and you never had anything good to say about them, even if it's somebody you knew, then you start saying like, oh, well, he was a good person. He was so good with people. He was loved and cared about by so many others. You're only saying that because, you don't like the idea of facing death, facing the the possibility of witnessing nothing but utter darkness and oblivion. That's why I believe that. Because if we don't want to say anything bad about someone who's dead because it's a low blow and you get no feedback. So of course, psychologically, you start saying good things about others, even if they're acquaintances or people you didn't even like. Because because people themselves are afraid of death. That's why they don't say anything bad about others who died. Unless they really, really hated that person, but that's a different story altogether. But still. And you know what's funny? Like, the average person who dies, we don't mourn over them or whatever because we don't know them. However, we will mourn over strangers. If we will mourn over people who happen to be celebrities, or even people like Talia Joy or Casey Anthony's daughter, Kaylee Anthony, who was a murder victim of her own mother. So my point is, that's the bottom line here. So maybe from here on in, we should we should appreciate each other more before it's too late. And what I mean by before it's too late is until we face death or until our loved ones pass away. And that can happen at any moment, maybe a second from now or even next week. Don't you guys think the same thing? If you agree, leave a comment. If you disagree, leave a comment as well. Take care, you guys.